I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to this session where I talk about what it's like to be a career coach. Now, normally I interview someone, but I decided to do it myself because this is what I do. And I thought I would do a slant toward if you happen to be a recruiter and you either want to make a transition because you're getting burned out of the search business, or maybe you're watching this during recessionary times and trying to think of additional income stream for yourself. Whichever it is, or whatever's prompted you to come here, I just wanted to give you some of a taste of what it's like to do career coaching. So what's my exact title? That's it, coach. And what precisely do I do? What are the duties, functions, responsibilities of your job? I have a standard questionnaire that I've been asking everyone about their work. So I'm just going to use the same questions for myself. So what is it that I do? Well, I do a variety of things concurrently, just like I did when I did search for 40 years. So the difference is when I'm talking to a job hunter, when I'm talking to someone who's in transition in some way, I'm there to work for them. I'm not there to work for an institutional customer who's going to be paying me. Since the job hunter is paying me, they are my client, which for a recruiter is going to be a little bit of a transition, but recognize that they're paying you and you're not being paid for the outcome of doing the deal. You're paid to help this individual find work. So what I tend to do is coach people. I tend to be online doing it, not by phone, but I use video services in order to do it so that we can see one another and I can notice certain things about how they present themselves, where their insecurities are, where their strengths are, where their confidence shows up, and when their lack of confidence shows up. So because you've been in recruiting, you know what that's like, and you can sense that a mile away. But here you can actually see it. What is the job like? That's the next question. Well, I'll simply say it's not a job per se. It really is to be thought of as a business. And for you as a recruiter, even though you may be working for a firm now, you've really been self-employed. And it'll feel the same way to you because you still have to do business development, except it's with individuals. If you've worked in recruiting for any length of time, you've got a database of people that you can call upon and who know you, and probably a decent sized LinkedIn connection pool to reach out to in order to be effective and start doing client delivery. No, you're not going to be getting the $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 fees. The amounts are smaller. But still, you're doing business development work, you're doing coaching work, you're doing a variety of different things to draw people to you and coach them as well. In the model that I use, if they purchase a certain amount of time from me, I critique resumes and LinkedIn profiles as well. But most of my day is either marketing or coaching. It's really that simple. To what extent is it you expected it would be? How much job security do you have in this position? Zero job security. I want to be clear. Zero. But then again, you're a recruiter. You're used to this already. What is it? Is it like what I expected it would be? Pretty much. I think the marketing side of this has become a little bit more present to me since I moved in. But as I thought about it at a certain point pretty early on, I recognized that this was a marketing role as well. What is a typical day like? Well, part of it is I market myself in a variety of ways. So I'm up early, and I have 2 podcasts that I host, and I share those and get them onto my website for release that day. I create a video pretty early on, and then from there I'm coaching or I'm networking, because I network as well in my local area, or I do business development work in order to draw people to me who might be interested in my work. So that's really my day in and day out. How different is that from when you were a recruiter? Zero. What hours do you typically work? Well, I tend to be up early, so I could be up as early as 4:30, and then I'm doing some transcriptions for my content. And then from there, I'm at my desk recording somewhere in the area of 7:30, sharing it to YouTube, and then sharing it through LinkedIn. That's how I'm choosing to market myself. You may choose a completely different route for yourself. However you choose to do it, that's how I start, and then from there the coaching comes in. And the nice thing is, I have breaks during the day I can program in so I can relax, go to the gym, and do other things as well. Do you have to put in much overtime or work on the weekends? The answer is sometimes. Sometimes I have a client, like I have international clients, and the way time zones will work, like I coached someone in Singapore for a while, and the way things worked out, he was in a different part of the world, and it was almost a 12-hour difference. So at times we worked on the weekend if he was going out on interviews. At times when I'm coaching in Europe, we've got a 6-hour time difference. I may be up early, which I already am, and I'm working with someone who's there midday. Not radically different than when you're doing search work, is it? Do I take work home with me? I'm working from home. I like that. I like the fact that I don't have to commute. I tend to think about what I can do more effectively to help people. When I'm off the phone, when I'm done with my session, I'm done. I will respond to email queries from folks, but they don't do that very often. Sometimes when they're a little nervous, they're looking for a little security from me. Again, not radically different than being in search. What kinds of problems do you deal with? Well, I'm dealing with job hunters who are anxious, and they're worried, and they're looking for me to have answers for them about how they can do things better. As a recruiter, you're trying to get them to do better so that your client hires them at the right salary. Not radically different, except if the offer is turned down, you're still working with them as opposed to hating them every minute of every day. What do you do if you can't solve a problem on your own? I've yet to run into this, and I'll just simply say, because I worked in search for as long as I did, I haven't run into situations where I have problems. And I would choose not to take on a client if I did have an issue, because I don't want to hurt them. I want them to get the result that they want. And with that, provide me with recommendations on LinkedIn that I can use to promote my business. Recommendations are the mother's milk here, because it's really where people differentiate one another. What kind of decisions do you make? The biggest one I make is what will help this particular person versus another person be effective in a search. Like when I was coaching a guy who was up for a chief of staff job with a major firm, that's a different issue than the person I was working with who was moving from the US to Germany for a search and wanted me to coach them on that, versus the junior salesperson in Pennsylvania who I was coaching. So all different situations, all different issues, all different problems, and I choose to be prepared for all of them. Describe some of the toughest situations you faced in this job. Well, again, for a search person, you may know your client, and that makes it a little bit easier. Here, I don't. I'm reading the tea leaves and talking about what I'm perceiving, which again, you've gotten enough debriefs after interviews to know how a person did or not, and you have a sense of what a client thinks of them, good or bad, and you're going to use those antennae in order to be effective with your clients. To what extent do you interact with customers or clients? Well, that's what you do. How much flexibility do you have in determining how you perform in your job? The answer is, I make every decision. These are my choices about how to market myself and how to deliver services to customers. Not radically different, except in the marketing, where if you're working for a firm, They're creating the branding and the impression, and you're doing it on your own. What are the most important personal satisfactions and dissatisfactions connected with your job? The big satisfaction, and I'm getting this pretty regularly, is the message from people who love what I do and how I've helped them. The recommendations are piling up. That didn't happen, actually for me it did, but for most of you that doesn't happen with any regularity. And I'm using recommendations in the LinkedIn sense, where someone's writing a testimonial about me and the work that I've done. It's very satisfying. It's frustrating when every once in a while you have someone, I don't know quite how to explain it, but you just miss on the connection. And that happens with job applicants when you're doing recruiting. But here, for me, I really want to do a great job for folks. And sometimes it feels like we're not speaking the same language. And I try to figure out different ways, but that's the hardest thing I really have to deal with, not feeling understood at times. It could be their lack of experience in job hunting, or I'm just missing the way to communicate with them. What do you like and not like about working in this job? What I like about it is I don't have to worry about manipulation. As a headhunter, I found pretty regularly, and I did primarily contingency work with the occasional search assignment worked in. Some of you folks may feel differently if you're a retained search, but I find that here I'm less concerned about the outcome. I want them to get the job, but my income isn't dependent upon it. So I don't feel the pressure to maneuver people. Now I'll use the blunt term, manipulate people into taking jobs. I want them to get a job. I want them to feel good about their experience with me. I don't refund money, but I'll coach them after they're on board about how to handle their new role. So that becomes my way of transitioning my business into something ongoing with them. And I've done that with a number of people. Are there aspects to your job that are repetitious? You betcha there are. You betcha there's repetition, just like there is in recruiting. Every day's a little bit different. Every day's a little bit the same. So don't expect radical difference, but it feels different. At least it does to me. If you could change anything about your job, what would it be? I'm looking to create wholesale avenues for myself where I'm working in large groups. Like I've got a membership site for job hunters, but I want to work with large groups, not just simply the people who sign up at my membership site. So that's part of my plan for 2018 and beyond, is to look for venues where I can be even bigger. Look for messages that I can communicate that'll be even more effective. Is there a great deal of turnover in this job? Truthfully, I don't know. So I can't really speak to that one. What interests you least about the job and creates the most stress? Well, the truth is I create the most stress for myself because I am determined to be effective. I really have that impetus and that internal push from my days in search and beyond that I just want to do great work and I want to be effective and successful. That comes from within me. That has nothing to do with the job. Just like it had nothing to do with the job when I did recruiting. And what interests you the least about the job? Sometimes responding to some of the email queries that I get from people who obviously don't know what a coach does, and they kind of confuse me with being a recruiter. Part of that is a lot of people knew me from recruiting and still think of me that way, and I've started to evolve out of that mental set that people have, where they want me to find a job for them, as opposed to coach them in a role. I also want to be clear, I don't write resumes. I won't write resumes. I hated writing resumes on the few occasions that I did it early in my search career. So to this day, I don't write them. I critique them. I critique their LinkedIn profiles. I don't write resumes. So that's pretty much a sense for you people who are in recruiting or perhaps in corporate HR who've been involved with recruiting about what it's like to be a career coach. Could you do this? Yeah, you can. You know the process. From the corporate standpoint, it is different to talk about from the job hunter perspective. Yes, you carry that wing of experience or knowledge with you, but it will feel different because they're looking for tactics and strategies. You know what worked for you, but you don't know what works for the other people out there necessarily. And thus it can be a little bit challenging for those of you who are in corporate recruiting. If you're in contingency recruiting or in search work, this is a natural add-on for your business, because the fact of the matter is, for many of you, you are contacted by a lot of people who you'll never be able to help because they're in a different part of the business than what you handle. So this becomes a way that you can generate revenue and feel good about yourself by doing this kind of work. So I hope you found this helpful. If you'd like me to coach you into the transition, reach out to me. I'm not going to do this for free. I want to be clear about that. But if you're interested in my coaching you into a transition into this kind of career coaching, job search coaching, email me at jeffaltman@thebiggamehunter.us, or better yet, message me through LinkedIn. My page there is linkedin.com/in/thebiggamehunter. Have a great day. Take care.